in the garage this weekend working on the Countach project. For those of you who have been following this is the Lamborghini Countach LP400S replica that I've been restoring over the last 18 months. So we're going to be back here working on this, so let's go ahead and get started. This weekend in the garage, what the goal is to get the radiator put back in. We ordered a new one. You can see it right there. That's an aluminum high-performance radiator. If you'll remember in the previous episodes, we had the issue where the radiator that had been in here probably for the last 30-some years pretty much cracked and blew. So we're replacing that this weekend. We're also going to be adjusting the radiator bracket underneath, which the previous owner had bottomed out on I believe a speed bump that had been damaged and just bent out of whack. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten that and mount it the way it should be so we can get everything put in here properly. We're going to get the engine radiator and the transmission cooler radiator fans wired up to the engine bay fans and get those cleaned up and working. We're also going to put the gauge cluster into the dash, get the turn signals wired up as well for the dash. We're adding 2 of those, and also the tripometer switch is also being added to that as well. And if we have time, we're going to get into diagnosing the potential issue with the engine idling fast being the EGR valve or solenoid. We're going to look into those, see if they need to be replaced or not, and hopefully wrap up all the mechanical stuff this weekend so we can move on to suspension in the body in the coming weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and get underneath. Let's get this bracket off now. And you can see here, this thing's pretty banged up. So I'm going to try to straighten it up, adjust it properly so that way we can connect it to the right bolt patterns on the frame so that way it'll be in the right angle and the right location. I'm going to go ahead and use a mallet, just straighten some of this out a little bit. Okay, that right there already looks better. See right here, that one's straight. This one's out of whack. I'm going to go ahead and bang all this out, and we'll be right back. Okay, we have it all pretty much all straightened out. You can see the bracket here, this edge where it connects to the frame is nice and straight. So is this one now, it's not bent. Went ahead and also straightened this up a little bit better. So that way now it's all nice and ready to hold the radiator and the transmission cooler in place. We'll mount that to the frame and we can start installing this radiator and getting it all hooked up. Alright, so the radiator bracket's been put back on. It's all nice and straight. It's level with the car. Mounted it to the frame the way it should have been. The former owner had it mounted sideways, bolted into something. It was all crooked. But anyway, so it's mounted onto the frame now. It's nice and straight. We're going to go ahead and attach the transmission cooler to it, bolt that in so we can slide the radiator in, connect the hoses, and then we can start working on the fans. I'm under the car now, having a little bit of an issue with this hose right up here, getting it to connect into the back of the radiator here. So I'm trying to adjust it. Not having much luck with that. This thing is so old, but anyway, probably have to wind up replacing those eventually. But almost everything has been connected in. Everything is secure. Radiator has been connected, all the hoses and lines are all secure. We put some fluid in it. Let's go ahead and give it a start, make sure there's no leaks, and then we can move on to putting the fans in place. Everything looks good, nothing leaking. Come around here. Checking all the hoses. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. Nothing leaking down here on the ground. Alright, good. Alright, we're on day 2 now of this week's project for this vehicle. things went a little bit longer. Ended off yesterday pretty much getting the fans in, tested them, everything works, they're in. So we went ahead and put the hood back on. I'm going to go ahead and close it. We're going to go ahead and start the car because I need to move it to bring it more to the center of the garage. So that way we can run the wires from the fan to the back engine fans. They go along the bottom. There's panels on each side, and a lot of the electric runs in those compartments. So I'm going to feed these wires through that. So let's go ahead and move it so we can get that done. All right, well, we have it in position now. Let's get underneath. I'll show you the panels, one on each side. But the one we're looking at right now is the one on the driver's side. Let's go ahead and pop that off so we can feed the electric through, connect everything, and be done with these fans. Coming underneath here, you'll see them. This panel pretty much runs from the front tire all the way back to the rear tire. And basically what's in there is you have the all of the wiring and harnesses and everything for the stereo system feeds through here because the speakers come through on the other side of that. Now these were put on afterwards out of some kind of plastic, which I don't want. So once this car is done, we're going to go ahead and change this out to aluminum. That way it's more rigid and more sturdy. But let's get that off so we can run the wires. So the panels have been removed, just to give you a little shot of what's up there. So you have the extra supported frame coming up there. You can see all that coming off. You have the General Motors K frame there, and then you have all these supports going up to another frame to accommodate the Countach body. Then there's the inside of the stereo speakers, and then you've got the MB Court part of the audio system there as well that normally gets mounted up here under that panel behind the panel next to the driver. There's one on the other side too. So there's some of the electric wires there for the automatic doors, other things running back there. So let's go ahead and fish these wires back there. There's going into the engine bay. That's where we're going to be headed. All the wires have been connected. Everything is attached. Let's go ahead and fire it up and test the fans. Okay, I have a switch here that normally controls the engine fans. I'm going to turn it on. If everything is correct, it should fire up the 2 engine fans and then the 2 radiator fans. Sounding good. Let's go take a look. Well, the transmission cooler fan is working great. I had to put these crappy wires back on, but I'm actually going to get the proper brackets, and when I work on the body, that'll be replaced. But for now, we just have it held in place. But you can tell that's working good. Let's go underneath and take a look at the radiator fan. Blowing nice and strong. Everything is working good. Let's check the engine fans, make sure they're performing the way they should as well, and we should be good to go. You can hear that one in there. That sounds great. Let's go to the other side and check that one. You can hear that one as well. So it looks like all 4 fans are working perfect based off of that switch. So now there's full control from inside the cockpit. Now let's get on to working on the gauge cluster. I ordered that from Dakota Digital. They're the ones who made the original one that was in this vehicle. I know it's not like the original Countach, so before everyone sends me all these comments, I'm aware of that. The whole inside was completely redone when the company that made the Replica designed it. Not too thrilled about it, but it'll do for now. At a later time, I want to swap it out for the actual Countach interior and the real Lamborghini seats, but that's for a later time. So for now, we're going to swap it out of like for like. So let's go ahead and get the gauge cluster tested and put in place. Getting ready to unbox the Dakota Digital gauge system. We're going to try to go ahead and just do a like for like swap on the display. The only thing that I'm really focusing on changing out here is the main box here. this control box for it. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to at least get this wired up today, and then we'll probably call it a day because it's getting late. The other projects we worked on took longer than expected. So the next time we're here in the garage, then we'll focus on actually putting the gauges in the dash, getting the dash put back in place, and getting all that cleaned up. So let's go ahead and unbox this, pull all this stuff out. We have all of the sensors and switches and stuff, which I don't need because I already have them in there and they are Dakota Digital, so I'm hoping that'll be fine. Okay, and then we have this, which is the display cluster with the different panels. I have my existing one right here, which actually still works. So I'm going to try to at least salvage the bezel off of this one, because what I'm doing is I'm actually putting left and right turning signals in here, so I don't want to mess with the new one, just in case I need to go back to it. So let's go ahead and get into the car and start connecting things and see if we can get it working. Here on the passenger side is where the original one was. I've obviously pulled it down, but that's it right there. So I'm hoping if I just undo these wires for all of the different gauge sensors, like the fuel and tachometer, all that stuff, and input them into the new box, then that'll solve the problem. Otherwise, I'm going to have to redo everything, which is going to delay this project even longer. I have this all hooked up. We have the box connected properly. We hooked up the gauges to it. As mentioned earlier, I'm not going to take the time to put it in here just because I want to have time to do it right. So we're getting ready to wrap up, but I just wanted to go ahead and turn this on. Let's see if all the gauges are coming on properly. Okay, looking good. It looks like the speed and the fuel needs to be calibrated properly. So right now they're not calibrated, but everything else is reading good. So, good. We're headed on the right track. So we're getting a reading for voltage, we're getting a reading for water temperature. Oil pressure, I'm not getting anything, and it could be because the engine's not running. But I'm going to go ahead and test that. If not, might have to check some of the wiring. But let's go ahead and put the car back in position. We'll call it a day. Well, this pretty much wraps up this episode for today. We'll have to finish it next time we're in the garage, finish setting up the gauges and then moving on from there. So please send any questions, any comments. I would love to hear from you. As always, I appreciate the support, so please like this video and subscribe to this channel. We'll see you next time.